Hey guys, tonight we're slipping quietly into the shadows of history, where freedom whispered beneath the moonlight and courage wore no medals. We're diving into the untold story of the Underground Railroad, a secret network that helped enslaved people escape to freedom long before hashtags or GPS existed. You probably won't survive this if you're afraid of goosebumps. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where everyone's listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself standing in an open field under a moon that looks just a bit too bright. The world feels still, except for the rhythmic chirp of crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. Somewhere in the dark, a lantern flickers, a tiny point of gold, swaying softly like a heartbeat in the night. You start walking toward it. The air is heavy with summer heat and something else, anticipation. Every sound feels louder than it should. You imagine the people who once walked this same path barefoot, hearts racing, carrying everything they owned in a single bundle. The wind carries faint whispers, words half lost to time. Maybe it's your mind playing tricks, or maybe it's the echo of those who once risked everything for freedom. You hear the crunch of gravel underfoot, and the smell of damp earth rises up. The path curves, leading toward a dense line of trees. The lantern light disappears behind them, and for a moment, you're swallowed by darkness. It's quiet, too quiet. You catch yourself holding your breath. Historians still argue whether the term Underground Railroad came first from these secret trails or from the whispers of slave catchers baffled by disappearing captives. Either way, it wasn't underground, and it wasn't a railroad. No trains, no tracks, just human bravery stitched together with faith and secrecy. The real stations were barns, basements, and backrooms of people who refused to obey injustice. Imagine standing at one of those crossroads, deciding whether to trust a stranger who claims to know the way north. You'd have no map, no phone, and no second chances. Just trust and the night sky. A soft rustle draws your eyes to the tree-line. Out steps a shadow, a woman with a worn shawl, holding that same lantern. Her face is lined with exhaustion, but her eyes burn steady. She gestures silently for you to follow. You do, your heart beating in sync with her quiet urgency. As you walk deeper, the forest seems to close around you. The sound of your steps vanishes, replaced by the creak of branches overhead. Somewhere behind, dogs bark faintly, too far to see, close enough to fear. The woman pauses, then blows out the lantern. Darkness swallows you both. You can feel your pulse in your fingertips. In that total blackness, the world sharpens. You hear your own breath. You can even smell the faint scent of smoke, someone's cooking fire, maybe miles away. She leans close, whispers one word, freedom, and you realize this isn't just a journey north. It's a journey through everything that makes us human: courage, faith, terror, and hope. There's a moment where you almost turn back. The path seems endless, and the dark feels alive. But then you catch sight of the North Star through the canopy, a pinprick of light, steady and patient. The same star that guided thousands before you. Somewhere in the stillness, you sense that every footstep you take tonight is layered over those who walked it first. Their fears, their dreams, their quiet songs humming beneath the soil. The Underground Railroad wasn't built with wood or iron. It was built with people. People who believed that even in the darkest night, light could be carried forward. You move again, slower now. The field is behind you, the forest deep around you. And up ahead, another flicker of light, another promise waiting in the shadows. The road north has only just begun. The lantern reappears ahead, smaller now, like a memory that refuses to die. You move quietly, each step muffled by damp leaves and soft earth. The woman leading you doesn't speak, but every gesture tells a story. A finger raised to pause, a glance backward when twigs snap, a quick nod when it's safe to move. The rhythm feels rehearsed, like a dance performed countless times before. It's strange how even fear can start to feel familiar. The forest hums around you. Insects, distant streams, the low thrum of the wind brushing against the pines. Somewhere far off, you think you hear singing. A low, wordless tune that fades as soon as you notice it. Maybe it's imagination, or maybe it's one of the old code songs that once floated through fields under starlight. They called them map songs. Follow the drinking gourd, steal away, wade in the water. Each melody carried hidden directions, rivers to follow, constellations to trust, landmarks disguised as lyrics. You'd hum them during the day like any other hymn, and only those who truly listened would understand their meaning. Historians still argue whether some of these songs were genuinely coded or later romanticized, but one thing's certain, for those in chains, music was both shield and compass. You stop at a clearing. The woman motions for silence, then points at a line of stones arranged in a crescent. "North," she whispers. Her voice is hoarse, like someone who spent years speaking only when absolutely necessary. She kneels, tracing one stone with her finger. "Always look for the river," she murmurs. "The river hides your trail." A splash of light hits your face, the moon breaking through clouds. The silver glow makes the path ahead shimmer faintly, and you realize the ground slopes downward toward water. You can smell it now, fresh, cold, metallic. The woman's pace quickens. The Underground Railroad was never static. Routes changed constantly, zigzagging through swamps, woods, and city streets. Every time one path was discovered, another had to be born. And unlike a real railroad, there were no timetables, no stations you could rely on. Just people who memorized every bend in the river, every crooked oak, every barn door marked with chalk. You hear the distant croak of frogs as you reach the riverbank. The current glistens under the moon, fast and restless. The woman rolls up her skirt and steps into the water. You hesitate, feeling the chill bite your ankles. "It's safer in the water," she whispers. "Dogs can't follow scent here." You wade in, careful not to stumble. The water is freezing, numbing your feet, but you keep moving. Branches brush your shoulders, and for a moment, you feel weightless, a ghost crossing between two worlds. A sudden splash behind you. Another fugitive joins the group. A young man, maybe 17, breathing hard, eyes wide with terror. "They're close," he gasps. The woman nods once. Her calm is eerie, almost supernatural. Then we move faster. You push through reeds and driftwood, water reaching your knees. The moon hides again, and you lose all sense of direction. Only her lantern, now barely glowing through wet fabric, keeps you moving. It's hard to imagine this was once real. That people navigated entire continents in silence, guided by instinct and the kindness of strangers. And yet, the system worked. A loose network that stretched from the deep south to Canada, connecting farms, churches, and hidden cellars in a web so secret that even today, historians can't trace every route. A quirky bit of lore says that some conductors used quilts as coded maps, hanging them on fences with specific patterns to signal safe houses or danger ahead. Some scholars believe it's a myth, others swear oral traditions keep the truth alive. Either way, you can almost picture it. A simple patchwork blanket fluttering in the breeze, quietly saying, "This way." The river bends again, and you follow it until your legs ache. The young man stumbles, nearly falling, but the woman grabs his arm. "Not far now," she says, though you can't tell if she's reassuring him or herself. When you finally step back onto land, the earth feels warmer, solid. The stars above look sharper, closer. Somewhere, a rooster crows, too early or maybe too late. Dawn is coming. And as light creeps through the trees, you realize the night has carried you miles. The woman wipes her face with a trembling hand and glances north. "There?" she whispers. The next stop waits just beyond that hill. You follow, still shivering, heart still racing. A traveler on a path made from courage, faith, and songs that only the brave could understand. The hill ahead looks small at first, but as you start to climb, every muscle protests. The ground is slick with dew, and your hands brush against tall grass that whispers secrets from centuries ago. The woman still leads the way, her steps sure and silent. The boy follows behind, coughing softly, his breath visible in the morning chill. The world around you feels fragile, like it's holding its breath. At the crest, a farmhouse appears, weathered, gray, and half swallowed by fog. Smoke curls lazily from a stone chimney. The woman lowers her lantern and signals for you both to wait. You crouch behind a fallen log, heart pounding. A dog barks once from the yard, then quiets. The front door opens with a slow creak. An old man steps out, wiping his hands on a rag. He looks ordinary, maybe even harmless, but that's exactly how safety looked on the Underground Railroad. He glances toward the treeline, then gives a small nod. The woman exhales in relief. "Come," she whispers, and you follow her across the yard, keeping low. The man ushers you quickly through the door and bolts it shut behind you. Inside, the air smells of wood smoke and flour. A pot simmers on the stove, and your stomach growls involuntarily. The man's wife, a woman with silver hair tied back in a bun, presses a finger to her lips, then motions toward the floorboards. You lift a rug to reveal a narrow trapdoor. Beneath it, a small space carved out of dirt and old planks waits, dark, cramped, and barely big enough for three. The boy hesitates, eyes darting toward the window. "Go," the woman urges softly. "You'll rest here until sundown." The hidden space is suffocating at first. The air is thick, the silence even thicker. You can hear footsteps above, slow, deliberate, then fading away. For a long moment, nothing moves. Only your own heartbeat keeps time. You try to steady your breathing, remembering that others before you have waited in the same silence, night after night, praying that the next knock on the door wouldn't be their last. Safe houses like this existed everywhere. On farms, in churches, even beneath city streets. Some belonged to abolitionists, others to free black families who risked everything to help strangers. Mainstream historians often credit figures like Levi Coffin, the so-called president of the Underground Railroad, but most of the heroes remain nameless. They left no diaries, no portraits, just footprints in the dirt and stories whispered across generations. You hear the creak of floorboards again. Someone walks directly above. Dust falls from the ceiling. You hold your breath. The woman beside you closes her eyes and whispers a quiet prayer. You can't make out the words, but the rhythm feels like a heartbeat, steady, defiant. Minutes stretch into hours. Sunlight filters through cracks in the floorboards, drawing thin golden lines across your hands. The warmth feels unreal, like a dream half remembered. You think about the old man upstairs, pretending nothing unusual is happening while offering bread to anyone who might ask too many questions. This house, like hundreds of others, is both sanctuary and trap. One wrong word, one curious neighbor, and everything collapses. Then suddenly thunder. Children's voices outside. The tension breaks just slightly. The woman beside you smiles faintly, whispering, "That's good. It means the day is normal." You nod, though your pulse still hammers in your ears. As the hours pass, your mind drifts. You imagine other safe houses, one with a hidden tunnel beneath a church pew, another behind a false wall in a tailor's shop. There's even a rumor about a bakery where pies were baked as cover while fugitives hid in the flour cellar below. Historians still argue whether such places actually existed or became embellished by oral legend, but even myths can hold truth. The trapdoor creaks open again. The old man's face appears, lined with worry but gentle. "It's time," he whispers. Night's falling again. You climb out slowly, legs stiff, lungs aching for fresh air. The woman thanks the couple quietly. No hugs, no farewells, just the shared understanding of what this risk means. Before you leave, the old woman presses something into the boy's hand, a small piece of paper folded tight. "You'll know when to open it," she says. He nods, eyes wide. Back outside, the sky is deep purple, stars just beginning to pierce through. The air feels cooler now, washed clean by dusk. The woman takes one last look at the farmhouse. "They'll move soon," she says softly. "Too dangerous to stay after a visit." You realize then that safety on the Underground Railroad was never permanent. It was borrowed, fragile, and always on the move. Each night began again with the same uncertainty, the same hope. The three of you disappear into the dark once more. The field fades behind you, the farmhouse becoming just another shadow on the horizon. Ahead, the world stretches northward, unmapped, uncertain, and waiting. The night air tastes different now, cooler, tinged with wood smoke and damp moss. You walk between tall trees, the crunch of leaves underfoot muffled by caution. The woman ahead holds her lantern low, careful not to let its glow spill too far. The boy walks beside you, still clutching the folded paper from the farmhouse. Every few minutes, his fingers brush over it, like a small charm keeping him steady. Somewhere in the distance, a whippoorwill calls. Its lonely cry echoes through the forest, rhythmic and haunting. You listen closely, and for a moment, you wonder, was that a bird or a signal? Many conductors and freedom seekers learn to read the natural world like a codebook. Dogs barking meant danger. The cry of a bird might signal it was safe to move. In this world, even the night had its language. The woman stops abruptly and kneels, pressing her ear to the ground. You follow her lead. Faintly, too faint for comfort, you hear hooves. Horses. The sound grows, slow but steady, from the east. The boy's breathing quickens. Patrollers, the woman whispers. They travel in pairs. Stay low. You drop flat into the grass as two riders appear along the distant ridge. Their lanterns swing back and forth, searching. One of them laughs, the sound sharp and careless. They don't see you, but the sound of their horses lingers long after they've passed, like ghosts galloping in circles through time. Move, the woman breathes. Quietly. You do, weaving between trees until the forest thickens again, the moonlight fractured by branches. The boy stumbles once, and she steadies him without a word. There's no panic in her face, only resolve. You reach a shallow ravine, its edges slick with mud. The woman leads you down, crouching beneath tangled vines. We rest here, she says softly, just for a moment. The boy finally unfolds the paper he's been holding. It's not a map at all, but a scrap of cloth with a stitched symbol, a small star above a cross. The woman nods. A code for faith and direction, she says. It means the next safe house belongs to the church. The Underground Railroad wasn't only a physical network, it was a spiritual one. Churches, especially those of free black congregations and Quakers, served as both meeting points and sanctuaries. Their basements hid more than hymnals. Their pastors preached salvation from pulpits that doubled as escape routes. Mainstream history often forgets that sermons and scripture were once used as survival guides. You sit in the ravine as she hums quietly, the melody faint but comforting. You recognize it, it's Wade in the Water. The boy hums along, off-key, but it doesn't matter. The song ripples through the trees like a prayer. Historians still argue whether this song really held coded instructions. God's gonna trouble the water, meaning to hide your scent in streams, but tonight, it feels like truth. Then footsteps. Not yours. Not hers. Slow, deliberate steps, crunching on dry leaves. You freeze. The woman's eyes narrow. She raises a hand, signaling silence. A shadow moves along the ravine's edge. A man, holding a rifle slung over his shoulder. His lantern's glow brushes your faces for a split second, and your pulse nearly stops. But he keeps walking, humming something to himself. A bounty hunter? A farmer? You'll never know. When he's gone, the woman exhales softly. We move now, she says, and starts climbing the ravine wall. You follow, your legs trembling from the tension. The boy whispers, "Do you think he saw us?" The woman doesn't answer. She just says, "Keep your eyes on the star." You emerge into an open clearing. Fireflies blink between the weeds like scattered embers. The sky is brighter now, cloudless, infinite. Somewhere northward lies freedom, though right now, it feels like a story too big to believe. A quirky story once told among freedom seekers claims that some used hollowed-out gourds filled with glowing fireflies as night lanterns, small beacons of light that wouldn't betray their position to pursuers. No historian has ever proven it, but the image sticks with you, little jars of living light, defying the dark. You walk again, guided by one star brighter than all the rest, the North Star, constant and patient. The boy points upward. "Do you think they're watching?" he asks. The woman smiles faintly. "The ones who made it? Always." Hours blur together. The forest thins. Ahead, Faintly glowing through the mist, stands a small chapel, wooden, crooked, and humble, its single window flickering with candlelight. You realize you've reached the next station in this invisible network of hope. The woman turns to you and says quietly, "Tonight we rest in the house of prayers. Tomorrow, the road will test your faith." You glance back once, the ravine already swallowed by darkness. The night holds its breath again. And as the chapel door creaks open, the sound feels like the soft beginning of a hymn. The chapel door closes behind you with a hollow thud that echoes longer than it should. Inside, the air smells of old wood, candle wax, and dust, centuries of whispered prayers trapped in the walls. The flickering candlelight paints the pews gold, their edges worn smooth by countless hands. A man in a dark vest steps forward from the shadows. He's tall, quiet, and watchful, with the kind of calm that feels practiced. "Welcome," he murmurs, voice low but warm. "You're safe for now." He motions for you to sit on one of the benches. The boy collapses onto the wood, exhausted. The woman bows her head in greeting. The man nods slightly toward her. "I heard you were coming," he says. His eyes flicker toward you and the boy. "The night's been long?" You manage a nod. He gestures toward the back of the chapel, where a hidden door stands slightly ajar. "The cellar," he says. "You'll find dry clothes and some bread. But first, pray with me." You're not sure if it's habit or necessity, but everyone bows their heads. His words are simple: gratitude for the safe arrival, strength for the road ahead, and mercy for those still lost in the night. The candlelight trembles with each breath, and for a moment, you almost believe the flicker is something alive, something listening. When the prayer ends, you follow him to the cellar. The floorboards groan under your feet. The stairs creak with the same tired rhythm as a heartbeat. The space below is small but comforting, lined with jars of preserves, burlap sacks, and a stack of blankets that smell faintly of lavender. A tiny window lets in a sliver of moonlight. The boy immediately curls up under a blanket and falls asleep, mouth half open, breathing heavy. The man hands you a cup of water. "You'll need to cross the line tomorrow," he says. "The border between states. They call it freedom on the other side, but it's not that simple." He sits beside a barrel and sighs. Freedom comes slow, like morning light. You listen, not wanting to interrupt. He speaks with the gravity of someone who's seen too much, someone who's buried names instead of bodies. He tells you that patrols have grown tighter since the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, a law that allowed slave catchers to pursue runaways even in free states. The Underground Railroad had to adapt. New routes opened through the Great Lakes, others along the Appalachian ridges. Each one paid for with blood, he says quietly. Historians still argue whether the railroad was truly as organized as later legends suggest, or more of a loose web of coincidences and courage. Either way, sitting in this cellar, surrounded by whispers and bread crusts, it feels real. You can almost hear the invisible tracks humming beneath your feet. He reaches for a candle stub and presses it into your hand. "This flame," he says, "has passed through a dozen hands. Every person who carried it made it one step further. Don't let it die." You nod, tucking it carefully into your pocket. Later, when the chapel is silent again, you lie awake on the cellar floor. The wooden beams above groan as if echoing with the weight of old songs. Somewhere above, the man moves quietly, maybe pacing, maybe praying. The woman hums under her breath, the same tune as before. It drifts around you like smoke, soft and persistent. Your eyes grow heavy. For a moment, you dream, fields of tall grass shimmering under sunlight, rivers running silver and endless, laughter ringing free in the distance. Then, abruptly, the dream shifts. Shouting. Fire. The illusion shatters, and you jolt awake, gasping. The woman's hand rests gently on your shoulder. "It's morning," she whispers. You blink. The faintest light filters through the window. She looks calm but wary. "We move fast today." Upstairs, the man waits with a small satchel. "There's a boat by the river," he tells you. "It'll take you to the border. But you must leave before the sun fully rises." There are eyes everywhere. Before you go, he places his palm over the boy's head and murmurs a blessing. "You are seen," he says softly, "and you are remembered." You step back into the dawn, the world washed pale blue. Mist coils low over the ground. The boy yawns, the woman scans the horizon, and you, still clutching that candle, feel a strange pull in your chest. The river glitters ahead, thin and wide like a ribbon of glass. Somewhere beyond it lies the invisible line that divides slavery from freedom. You take a deep breath, and the air feels different, charged, alive, waiting. You start walking again, your feet sinking into the soft earth. Every step feels heavier, every sound sharper. You can almost sense the line approaching, like a heartbeat beneath the soil. And then, from somewhere deep inside, you hear the whisper that has carried generations forward. Keep going. The river looks deceptively calm, a pale silver ribbon winding through mist. Dawn stretches its first faint fingers across the horizon, brushing the world in cold blue light. You stand at the water's edge, trying to quiet the pounding in your chest. The woman kneels, testing the current with her hand. "It's fast," she murmurs, "but it'll carry us north." The boy stares at the opposite bank, dark trees, low fog, and the promise of something called freedom. He asks softly, "Will they know we're coming?" "They always know," the woman answers. "Just not when." You help her push the small rowboat from the reeds. It creaks as it shifts into the current, the oars slick with dew. You climb in, the river swallowing the sound of your movement. As the boat drifts away from shore, you glance back. The chapel is gone, hidden behind the fog. All that remains is the faint outline of the world you've left behind. Water laps softly against the hull, rhythmic and hypnotic. For a moment, you could almost mistake this for peace. The woman rows with deliberate care, her breath steady, eyes locked on the far shore. You can tell she's done this before. She doesn't say it, but you know her story. Everyone on this river carries one. She was once a fugitive herself, guided by moonlight and faith, before turning back, again and again, to help others. You've heard her name whispered before tonight. Harriet Tubman. The woman who walked through the jaws of death more times than anyone could count and came back smiling. Mainstream history remembers her as the Moses of her people, but those who traveled with her spoke of something more, an almost supernatural intuition. Some said she could sense danger before it came. Others swore she dreamed routes days before she walked them. Historians still argue whether it was strategy, faith, or something unexplainable. But right now, as the river carries you forward under her command, it feels real. A branch snaps somewhere along the shore. Harriet freezes. The boy's hand grips your sleeve. You hold your breath. Through the mist, a lantern flickers. Two shadows move along the bank, men with rifles. Their voices carry over the water. You can't make out the words, but you hear laughter. Harriet lowers the oars and lets the current pull you silently downstream. The river's surface ripples, distorting the reflection of the sky. The men walk parallel for a while, scanning the water, then fade into the distance. Only after they're gone does Harriet move again, whispering, "Never fight the river. Let it protect you." You drift for what feels like hours. The boy eventually dozes off, his head resting against your shoulder. You watch the sun climb, still weak and shy, glinting off the waves. For the first time, the fear loosens its grip just a little. You think about how many others took this same path, following whispers, stars, and faith. Harriet hums quietly, a tune so low it feels more like vibration than sound. You recognize it again, "Steal Away to Jesus." It rolls through the fog like breath, blending with the sound of the current. "We used to sing it in the fields," she says. "Made the masters think it was about heaven. They never guessed it was about here." There's a weight in her words that makes you realize heaven, to her, isn't some faraway place, it's the other side of the river. A quirky story once told about Harriet says she carried a revolver not for enemies, but for fear itself. She threatened to use it only if someone tried to turn back, knowing that hesitation meant death for everyone. It said she never lost a passenger. You glance at her steady hands, her eyes fixed forward, and believe it. The far bank comes into view, dense trees, wet soil, and a low wooden dock half hidden under cattails. Harriet eases the boat into the shallows. The boy wakes with a start, blinking at the sunlight. "We made it," he asks. She smiles faintly. "We made it across. But freedom's still walking distance." You step onto solid ground, your legs trembling. The air smells different, cleaner, maybe, or just unfamiliar. Birds call somewhere in the distance, and the forest feels strangely alive, as if it knows what you've done. Harriet kneels in the mud, scooping a handful of river water and letting it drip through her fingers. "This river's carried hundreds," she says quietly. "It don't forget faces." Then she looks up at you. Neither should you. Behind her, the river continues to flow, relentless, eternal, whispering the names of those who crossed and those who didn't. You realize now that this isn't just a journey through history, it's a pilgrimage through the memory of courage itself. You walk north again, wet shoes squelching with each step. The forest grows quieter, the mist thinning to a pale glow. Harriet moves ahead, lantern swaying softly in her hand. The boy follows close, a small figure with eyes full of stubborn hope. And you, somewhere between the living and the ghosts of the past, walk into the rising sun, the rhythm of the oars still echoing in your chest. The path north bends through low meadows and tangled woods, the kind of land that feels like it's breathing beside you. The air is fresher here, threaded with wildflowers and the faint hum of crickets. For a moment, the silence feels almost peaceful. Then Harriet slows, tilting her head like she's listening to something only she can hear. "We're near a meeting place," she says softly. "Church folk." Ahead, through the trees, a faint bell tolls, just once, low and hollow. You follow the sound until a weathered barn comes into view. Its boards are cracked, its roof patched with tin, but carved above the doorway is a cross. Inside, voices rise in quiet song, and lantern light spills through the gaps in the wood like sunlight trapped in honey. A man steps out to meet you, wiping his hands on a rag. He's broad-shouldered, with a kind face and a voice like a low drum. "Harriet," he says, smiling, "you made it again." She nods. "Two with me this time." He glances at you and the boy, then gestures for you to enter. Inside, the barn scent is a mix of hay, oil, and the warm salt of human sweat. Men and women sit in a circle, hands joined. Some pray, some sing under their breath, their eyes half closed. At the center, a small wooden table holds a loaf of bread and a lantern. "These are friends," Harriet whispers. "Quakers, mostly. Church folks, abolitionists, free men. Each of them has given more than they could spare." The man nods toward the bread. "You'll need strength. There's still far to go." As you tear a piece, he begins to speak. Not a sermon exactly, more like a confession. "We've seen people come through here broken," he says. "Feet bleeding, skin burned from rope and sun. Some make it, some don't. But every one of them carries a spark. It's the same spark that keeps the rest of us from turning away." You look around. One woman kneels, washing someone's bandaged foot. Another hands out water. A little girl hums, her voice pure and steady. The air hums with faith, not loud, not dramatic, but the quiet kind that builds walls against despair. Historians still argue whether churches truly formed an organized part of the Underground Railroad or if faith simply ran parallel to it. Some records were burned to protect those involved, others never written at all. But here, watching strangers risk everything for people they'll never meet again, you realize faith was the railroad. Not the planks, not the paths, faith itself. You sit for a while as the group sings. The melody is slow, deliberate, a blend of sorrow and triumph. The words talk about Jordan's River and promised lands, metaphors hiding in plain sight. The boy beside you closes his eyes, swaying slightly to the rhythm. Even in exhaustion, he smiles. Harriet exchanges quiet words with the man, pointing toward a narrow staircase at the back of the barn. "The crawl space," she says. "We'll sleep there till moonrise." He nods and hands her a scrap of parchment. You glimpse the words Elm Creek, then north to the lake. She folds it neatly into her pocket. As you prepare to rest, another voice breaks through the murmurs. An older woman sitting near the door, eyes sharp as flint. "You remember, Miss Tubman," she says, "they call this the Lord's work. But the Lord don't carry the burden. You do. Harriet smiles faintly, as if she's heard it 100 times. Then I reckon the Lord trusts me enough to walk beside him. Everyone chuckles softly, and the tension in the room loosens. For a moment, laughter replaces fear. When night falls again, the group disperses quietly. The woman with the sharp eyes douses the lanterns one by one. You lie in the crawlspace under the barn floor, the smell of hay filling your lungs. Above you, the last hymn fades, replaced by the rhythmic creak of someone rocking in a chair. You think of all the people moving through the dark right now, each in their own silence, each carrying that invisible spark. Somewhere miles away, another group crosses a river. Another hides in a wagon. Another prays for morning. A quirky legend says some conductors disguise themselves as traveling preachers, using scripture as coded instructions. Seek the northern star of Jacob, they'd say, a line that sounded holy enough to slip past suspicion but meant, head north and don't stop. You smile in the dark, realizing how faith wasn't just belief, it was camouflage, a secret language of hope. As you drift into uneasy sleep, Harriet's voice drifts through the floorboards. She's praying again, not for safety, but for endurance. Keep our feet steady, she murmurs. Keep our eyes open. And if one of us falls, let another rise. The prayer echoes in your head long after you close your eyes. The barn breathes around you, warm and alive, pulsing with courage that refuses to die. When you finally wake, the world is black again, and Harriet's silhouette waits by the door. Time to move, she whispers. The stars won't wait forever. You rise, brush the hay from your clothes, and follow her out into the silver light of another endless night. The forest is dense now, shadows thick and almost tangible. Your legs ache from yesterday's river crossing, from running and crouching and the hours spent crawling through barn crawl spaces. Yet, the night demands movement, and Harriet walks ahead like a phantom, her lantern a dim pulse in the darkness. The boy trails behind, shoulders hunched, clinging to his folded paper like a talisman. Every snap of a twig sends your heart leaping. You recall stories whispered among runaways about informants, neighbors, hired hands, even family members who betrayed those they should have protected. Some say betrayal was rare, others swear it was inevitable. Historians still argue whether the network's success lay in secrecy or sheer luck, but right now, the threat feels palpable. A distant shout cuts through the still air. Your pulse quickens. Harriet freezes, listening. She gestures for silence. The forest seems to lean in, holding its breath. The sound fades, leaving only the hum of crickets and the distant gurgle of a creek. You exhale, trying not to shake. The boy grips your sleeve. Do you think it was them? He whispers. Harriet shakes her head. Patience, she says. The night has a way of protecting those who respect it. You move again, careful to step where the ground feels firm. A fallen log becomes a bridge over a marshy patch, reeds brushing your knees. You imagine the countless others who crossed the same treacherous ground. Every step carries a story of courage, fear, and hope. Some stories ended in freedom, others ended in capture, a reminder that the path was never guaranteed. Eventually, the trees thin, revealing a narrow dirt road. Moonlight glances off a low stone wall, guiding your path. In the distance, a dim light flickers from a small cabin. Harriet nods toward it. The next station, she whispers. You follow, heart hammering. Inside, the cabin is simple, plank walls, a single stove, and a small loft where travelers rest. A woman greets you with a nod, offering blankets and water. There's no conversation, just understanding. Here, words are unnecessary. Silence itself carries meaning. She motions toward a cupboard filled with jars. Food, she whispers. You'll need it for tomorrow. While you eat, you notice scraps of paper pinned to the walls, each marked with small symbols, stars, crosses, and dots. Some say they're directions, others encouragement. A quirky legend says conductors used such marks as secret graffiti, a code that only those who knew how to read it could follow. Some scholars dismiss it as folklore, but to you, the symbols hum with purpose. The night grows deeper. Outside, you hear dogs barking in the distance. Your pulse quickens again. The woman places her hand on your shoulder. "They're far enough," she says softly. "But do not forget the lessons of this road." Harriet sits beside the boy, checking his blanket. "Remember," she whispers, "every step forward is one step closer. Trust the network, trust the river, trust the faith that moves through us." You lie on the floorboards, listening to the rain begin to patter softly on the roof. The sound is comforting, masking any distant footsteps, and you feel the tension in your muscles ease slightly. Yet the knowledge remains, betrayal lurks, danger follows, and freedom is still walking distance. The boy falls asleep in Harriet's arms. You close your eyes, imagining all the others who have walked similar paths, through forests, across rivers, hiding in barns. The spirit of the Underground Railroad feels alive around you, a living network of courage, faith, and quiet rebellion. And as the storm hums softly above, you realize that danger, though constant, is only part of the story. The courage to keep moving, to trust strangers, and to believe in a better world. That's the heartbeat of the railroad, beating through the dark night. The rain softens to a drizzle, painting the dirt road with a slick, reflective sheen. Moonlight glints off puddles like scattered gems. You follow Harriet as she guides you north, her lantern a faint heartbeat against the dark. The boy shivers beside you, and you wrap an arm around him, both for warmth and reassurance. Every step feels deliberate, careful, sacred. Somewhere up ahead, the sound of water becomes clearer, the soft rush of a river widening into a lake. Freedom isn't just a concept here. It's almost tangible, whispered in the rhythm of flowing water, in the way the mist hugs the land. The farther north you go, the lighter the air feels, almost as if the very earth is breathing out chains. Harriet pauses at the treeline, pointing to the lake glimmering faintly. "This is it," she says. "Once across, we step into another world. Not perfect, but freer." You glance at the boy. He looks unsure, eyes wide. "Really?" he whispers. Harriet smiles faintly. "Every step counts. This one is long, but it brings you closer." The crossing isn't easy. The shore is muddy, and reeds tug at your legs. You step carefully, chest tight with anticipation. Every crackling twig, every ripple in the water, feels magnified. Above, stars reflect in the lake's surface, doubling as guides. You realize that the North Star is no longer just above. It's mirrored beneath your feet, a celestial reminder of direction and hope. On the far bank, the landscape is slightly different. Lighter, softer, more forgiving. You catch glimpses of distant cottages, small lights blinking like quiet signals. The world feels quieter here, though danger hasn't fully vanished. Even in freedom, vigilance is necessary. Some bounty hunters still roam, and rumors of informants linger. But the sense of relief is undeniable. You've made it past the most dangerous stretches. Historians still debate exactly how many escaped via the Underground Railroad. Estimates range in the tens of thousands, though many were never documented. As you step forward, you think about all the unnamed faces, the silent prayers, the footprints lost in the mud, and the courage it took to simply keep walking. A quirky detail surfaces in your mind. A story told by some travelers of placing feathers in their hair or small trinkets in pockets as talismans to protect against capture. Some scholars dismiss it as superstition, but the charm of it lingers. You tuck a stray leaf into your pocket, feeling its strange symbolic weight. Harriet gestures for silence, leading you toward a small cluster of homes. One house has a familiar symbol carved above the doorway, a simple star above a cross. Inside, families wait quietly, offering blankets, food, and soft smiles. No questions, no judgment, just refuge. As you rest, watching the first hints of dawn filter through the mist, you realize the journey north is not just a physical passage. It's a crossing of faith, endurance, and willpower. Every river forded, every field navigated, every safe house reached is a testament to human resilience. The boy stretches and yawns, and Harriet whispers, "One more stretch, then you'll see what freedom feels like, at least a glimpse of it." You glance at the lake behind you, silver and endless. The currents have carried more than water tonight. They've carried hope, courage, and the weight of countless footsteps into the dawn. The final leg of your journey begins with soft earth beneath your feet and the faint scent of pine carried on the morning air. The boy clings to Harriet's hand, and you match their pace, trying to absorb the enormity of what you're witnessing. This stretch isn't marked by rivers or barns. It's a quiet, almost invisible trail through woods and open fields. The kind of path that could be crossed by anyone who walked with patience, caution, and courage. Each step north feels charged with meaning. You think about the countless fugitives who came before, those whose names are forgotten, whose faces exist only in the memory of the wind and the rustle of leaves. Some walked alone, others in small groups. Every crossing had its unique danger, its tiny miracles, and its whispered prayers. Ahead, the trees begin to thin, revealing rolling hills bathed in pale sunlight. The North Star is no longer your guide. The earth beneath your feet and the rising sun above are enough. Freedom, you realize, isn't just a destination. It's a series of choices, moments of trust, and leaps into the unknown. The boy stumbles on a hidden route, and Harriet steadies him. "Every fall is part of the path," she murmurs. "Don't be afraid." You glance back, half expecting shadows to rise from the earth, but the forest behind seems still, almost respectful of the passage. Finally, the trail opens to a small settlement. Smoke curls from chimneys, and children's laughter drifts on the breeze. The homes are simple, modest, shelters for those who have come from afar seeking safety. You realize you've crossed into Canada, where laws no longer bind people in chains, and the air tastes of possibility. Historians still debate how freedom was experienced upon arrival. Some faced new forms of discrimination, precarious employment, or harsh winters. Yet for many, the simple act of walking without fear, of choosing where to rest and whom to trust, was liberation enough. You breathe deeply, feeling the difference immediately, the weight of constant vigilance finally easing. Harriet looks toward the settlement, then back at you and the boy. "We're not done," she says softly. "Freedom comes with responsibility. Protect it, share it, carry it forward." You nod, understanding that her work didn't end with a single crossing. It was a lifetime devoted to guiding others, teaching them resilience, faith, and courage. A quirky anecdote comes to mind. A story that some travelers carried coins carved with secret markings, hidden in shoes or sewn into garments. No one really knows how widespread it was, but the idea fascinates you. Small, silent signals connecting those on the path, a private code only understood by the initiated. You look at the boy, now smiling faintly, and realize he has experienced something unimaginable. Not just the physical journey north, but the emotional terrain. Fear, hope, exhaustion, and triumph. Each of you is a living echo of the Underground Railroad, carrying its legacy into a new land. The settlement grows closer, the smoke rising higher, the sounds of life stronger. You walk with the knowledge that the road behind is carved into memory, and the road ahead is full of choices. Every step forward is a continuation of courage, faith, and the endless human pursuit of freedom. You step into the settlement, the soft crunch of dirt underfoot echoing differently than it did in the forest. It feels heavier, almost sacred. Children play freely, chasing each other around modest homes, their laughter a fragile shield against the memory of chains and danger. The boy beside you mirrors the joy, but his eyes hold the weight of the nights spent hiding, rowing, and trusting strangers. You can't help but notice how even small freedoms, stretching, laughing, speaking without fear, carry the same gravity as crossing rivers or evading patrols. Harriet guides you through winding lanes, past families preparing for the day, the smell of bread baking and wood smoke greeting you like a benediction. She pauses outside a small house with a wooden cross carved beside the door. "This is safe," she says quietly. "Rest here. Share what you've seen." You sense the depth of her words. Freedom isn't just escaping. It's sustaining, building, and passing on knowledge. You glance at the boy, whose small hands clutch yours tightly. His journey isn't over, but he has crossed the most perilous parts. He looks up at Harriet. "Will we be safe now?" he asks. She smiles gently, resting a hand on his shoulder. As safe as anyone can be, she replies. But remember, courage never sleeps. Inside the house, the smell of stew and baked bread fills the air. Other fugitives, now free, gather quietly, their faces a mix of relief, exhaustion, and quiet pride. Stories are exchanged in whispers, laughter occasionally punctuating the silence. Some speak of family left behind, others of the conductors who risked everything. Every tale, every detail, becomes part of the collective memory, woven into the living history of those who dared to escape. Historians still argue over the precise number of people Harriet guided north, how many crossed rivers by night, and how many safe houses truly existed. Records were sparse, destroyed, or never kept, yet the echoes of courage persist, undiminished by time. In that small house, surrounded by people who have endured, it becomes clear, the railroad wasn't just routes and signals. It was hope made manifest, faith in human kindness and resilience. You step outside briefly, inhaling the crisp northern air. The river you crossed, the forests you navigated, the barns and churches you hid in, they all fade into memory, but the lessons remain vivid. The North Star no longer guides you. Your eyes trace the horizon, knowing the path ahead is open yet full of responsibility. Harriet stands beside you, quiet now, watching. Remember, she whispers, freedom is not just a place. It's a journey. Keep walking it for yourself and for those who cannot. The boy yawns, finally relaxed, and you sense the end of this chapter. Yet the story of courage continues, etched in the river, the trees, the barns, and the hearts of those who walked before you. You sit on a quiet porch as the sun climbs higher, warming your face. The forest, the river, and the long nights of hiding feel distant now, softened by time and distance. Every leaf that rustles, every bird that calls, seems to carry a whisper of the journey you've just lived, a reminder of courage, endurance, and hope. The boy leans against your shoulder, slow breaths even, heart steady, the weight of fear finally lifted. The house around you is calm. People move gently, not out of caution, but out of familiarity with life rebuilt. Every creak of the floorboards, every murmur in the kitchen, is a note in a quiet symphony of survival. You realize how fragile yet persistent freedom can be, like the wind threading through open windows or the sunlight reflecting off the river. Time itself seems to stretch, slowing to a rhythm you can almost touch. Your mind drifts to the millions who never reached such a haven, the faces erased by history but remembered in every careful step you took. And yet, the song of hope, soft, insistent, enduring, persists. It hums in your bones, in the boy's breath, and in the very air you breathe. Even now, as you watch clouds drift lazily across the sky, there is a profound quiet, a sense of completion mingled with gentle anticipation. You imagine the next travelers, the next hands guiding them, the next stars shining overhead. You feel a deep, satisfying peace, knowing you've walked with history, not just as a witness, but as a part of its living pulse. Let your eyes close slowly. Feel the warmth, the calm, the echo of countless footsteps that led here. Let the stories fade gently into the corners of your mind, soft and unhurried. Breathe deeply, letting every worry drift away, leaving only the quiet courage you've carried tonight.